Welcome to Paranormal Files. I'm your host, Zoe Parker. Tonight, we're exploring one of the most unsettling mysteries in the paranormal world, the poltergeist phenomenon. Unlike traditional hauntings, poltergeists don't just appear. They interact, moving objects, slamming doors, even scratching or pushing people. Is this evidence of restless spirits, a manifestation of the human mind, or something far more sinister? Stay with me as we uncover the truth behind the chaos. To truly understand the poltergeist phenomenon, we need to trace its roots and explore the historical and cultural significance that has given these strange events such a prominent place in paranormal lore. Stories of unseen forces disturbing homes and lives go back centuries, crossing continents and cultures, which only adds to the mystery. One of the earliest known accounts of poltergeist activity dates back to the 1st century AD, when Roman author Pliny the Younger documented a haunting in a home in ancient Athens. He described a ghostly figure of an old man with a long beard clanking chains as he roamed the house. The story goes that the spirit was tied to an unmarked grave discovered in the courtyard. While it may not perfectly fit the modern idea of a poltergeist, this account set the stage for the idea of restless spirits manifesting their presence in unsettling ways. Fast forward to medieval Europe, and poltergeist stories took on new dimensions. During this period, unexplained phenomena were often attributed to witchcraft or demonic forces. In many cases, individuals accused of witchcraft were blamed for the strange occurrences: flying objects, unexplained noises, or livestock mysteriously dying. Religious leaders were frequently called upon to cleanse homes of these disturbances, often with dramatic rituals that sometimes became just as infamous as the hauntings themselves. One notable case from the 17th century is the infamous drummer of Tedworth in England. This poltergeist tale involved John Mompesson, a magistrate, who confiscated a drum from an itinerant drummer accused of fraud. Shortly after, his house was plagued by mysterious drumming sounds, furniture moving on its own, and even violent shaking of the house's structure. The case became so widely known that it attracted the attention of King Charles II, though no definitive explanation was ever found. Poltergeist activity continued to captivate people well into the 20th century, with some of the most famous cases happening in this era. These stories often centered around ordinary families living in unassuming homes, their lives upended by escalating disturbances. Take, for example, the Enfield poltergeist in late 1970s England. The Hodgson family experienced years of torment, furniture being flung across rooms, disembodied voices, and even levitations. Skeptics wrote off the incidents as an elaborate hoax, but to this day, many investigators and witnesses stand by their accounts, making it one of the most hotly debated poltergeist cases in history. Cultural perspectives also play a significant role in how poltergeist events are interpreted. In some regions, they are seen as the work of angry spirits or ancestors seeking attention. In others, they are attributed to residual energy imprinted on the environment, a concept sometimes referred to as a stone tape theory. No matter the interpretation, these events share one common thread. They challenge our understanding of the physical world. Throughout history, these stories have persisted, each one carrying its own strange details and cultural context. They blur the lines between folklore, fear, and faith, leaving us to wonder if poltergeist activity is something ancient and universal, or if it's shaped by the human imagination itself. It's one thing to hear about poltergeists as an abstract phenomenon, but it's something else entirely when the stories become personal. For the families and individuals who claim to have encountered these disturbances, the experiences often start subtly, so much so that they can be dismissed as coincidences or tricks of the mind. But as these events unfold, they become harder to ignore. Take, for instance, one of the most unsettling accounts from the 1970s, the Smurl family haunting in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It began innocently enough: unusual noises at odd hours, a persistent foul odor with no discernible source. The family tried to explain it away. Maybe the house had a plumbing issue or a dead animal trapped in the walls. But things quickly escalated. Furniture began to move on its own. Objects disappeared, only to reappear in entirely different parts of the house. And then there were the shadowy figures that started to manifest. visible just long enough to confirm they weren't imagined. Janet Hodgson's experience during the Enfield poltergeist case offers a similar sense of progression. At first, it was the inexplicable movements of furniture, a chair sliding across the room or a door slamming shut with no one nearby. Janet, only 11 years old at the time, vividly described how her bed would shake in the middle of the night, waking her and her siblings in a panic. The sounds of knocking and tapping would fill the house, often coming from inside the walls. Janet's mother, Peggy, initially thought her children were playing tricks, but that belief dissolved when she witnessed a chest of drawers being shoved across the floor by an unseen force, as if to block the bedroom door. In other cases, witnesses report not just physical disturbances, but auditory phenomena as well. In the Bell Witch haunting of Tennessee, the family experienced eerie voices speaking in the night. At first, it sounded like faint whispers, but over time, the voice became clearer and more aggressive, hurling insults and threats. This ability to seemingly communicate added a sinister layer to the phenomenon, making it feel intelligent and personal. Some encounters go beyond mere sounds and movement, leaving physical marks behind. During the haunting of Alma Fielding in 1930s London, investigators documented strange occurrences like shattered glass spontaneously flying across the room. Alma claimed that she was often scratched or bruised by an invisible force. These physical manifestations are rare but add an undeniable layer of terror to the accounts. What's striking in so many of these stories is the psychological toll on the people involved. Families initially try to rationalize what's happening, even as the evidence mounts. They might call in friends, neighbors, or clergy to witness the disturbances, only to be met with skepticism or, worse, accusations of fabrication. For those experiencing poltergeist activity firsthand, the line between reality and imagination becomes a battleground, and the haunting starts to feel like a deeply personal attack. What begins as an occasional knock or unexplained movement quickly spirals into a relentless series of events, forcing those involved to confront the unthinkable. Something beyond their understanding has taken up residence in their lives. As the accounts of poltergeist activity escalated, the need for answers drew investigators, skeptics, and media attention. For some families, this meant bringing their private torment into the public eye, often at great personal risk, hoping that anyone might validate their experiences or offer a solution. The Enfield poltergeist, for example, attracted the attention of the Society for Psychical Research, a group dedicated to studying paranormal phenomena. Maurice Gross, a member of the society, spent months living in the Hodgson family's home, documenting their experiences. Alongside him was journalist Guy Liam Playfair, who later authored the book This House is Haunted. The two men recorded hours of audio evidence, capturing the unsettling knocks, the sudden rearrangement of furniture, and even a gruff voice allegedly coming from 11-year-old Janet Hodgson herself. The recordings remain some of the most debated pieces of evidence in paranormal research. In one instance, Janet, seemingly possessed by an unseen force, spoke in a voice that did not belong to a child. The voice claimed to be Bill Wilkins, a former resident who had died in the house years prior. When investigators checked local records, they found a man by that name who had indeed lived in the house and passed away there under the very circumstances the voice described. The connection was eerie, but skeptics were quick to point out that Janet could have learned these details from other sources. Photographic evidence also played a central role in investigations. Some of the most famous images from the Enfield case show Janet apparently being flung across her bedroom, her body frozen midair as if hurled by an unseen force. Critics dismissed the photos as staged, pointing to the possibility that Janet had simply jumped off her bed. Yet others who were present during the activity swore that the phenomena were genuine, noting the sheer force required to move heavy objects or lift a person. The Smurl family, facing similar torment, turned to renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. The Warrens claimed to have encountered a demonic presence in the Smurl home, one that fed on fear and chaos. According to their accounts, the entity was particularly aggressive, leaving scratches and foul odors in its wake. The Warrens documented their findings in interviews and books, though critics accused them of sensationalism, saying their claims lacked verifiable proof. In the case of Alma Fielding, her encounters with flying objects and strange phenomena were investigated by psychic researcher Nandor Fodor. Fodor documented instances of spontaneous object movement and even noted physical marks on Alma, such as scratches and bruises. However, his conclusions were controversial. While he acknowledged the possibility of supernatural activity, Fodor also suggested that Alma's own psychological state might have played a role in manifesting the phenomena, a theory that left many questions unanswered. Even skeptics, drawn to debunk these stories, sometimes left investigations with more questions than answers. In the Bell Witch case, neighbors and visitors tried to catch the family faking the eerie voices or moving objects, yet no one ever found concrete proof of a hoax. This pattern of inconclusive evidence, enough to tantalize but never enough to prove, is what keeps cases like these shrouded in mystery. As the investigators documented their findings, the stories gained traction, sparking fierce debates and media frenzy. Whether evidence like recordings, photographs, or witness accounts was seen as proof or fabrication depended entirely on who was interpreting it. For those at the center of the investigations, however, it wasn't about convincing the world. It was about surviving the unexplainable. Theories surrounding poltergeist phenomena are as diverse as the experiences themselves. For those who believe in the supernatural, the prevailing idea is that poltergeists are restless spirits or malevolent entities, drawn to locations or individuals for reasons that often remain unclear. They are thought to thrive on negative energy, particularly in environments marked by tension, stress, or emotional upheaval. Take the case of the Hodgson family. Paranormal investigators like Maurice Grosse suggested that the activity in their home was linked to the emotional turmoil of the family, especially the adolescent children. Poltergeist cases frequently involve young individuals, leading to speculation that puberty or hormonal changes might somehow attract or empower these entities. The theory suggests that the spirits either latch onto these vulnerable individuals or are unintentionally created by their energy. Another interpretation leans into darker territory, the involvement of demonic forces. Ed and Lorraine Warren often attributed poltergeist cases to demons rather than human spirits. In the Smurl family case, the Warrens believed that the entity tormenting them was not just a restless ghost, but a powerful demon intent on sowing chaos and fear. They argued that the intensity and violent nature of the activity, such as scratches, levitating objects, and foul smells, were hallmarks of demonic interference, requiring spiritual intervention to banish the entity. On the other hand, skeptics propose more grounded explanations. One common argument is that poltergeist phenomena are the result of misinterpretation, hoaxes, or psychological factors. In the case of the Enfield poltergeist, critics pointed to inconsistencies in Janet Hodgson's accounts and alleged that some of the activity was staged. Skeptic Anita Gregory, who investigated the case, claimed that the children admitted to faking some of the incidents, though they maintained that much of what occurred was real. Psychologists often explore the idea that poltergeist activity may be linked to subconscious human behavior. This theory, known as recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, RSPK, suggests that individuals, often unaware of their own actions, can influence their physical environment through their mental or emotional states. In this view, a teenager experiencing stress or trauma might unknowingly cause objects to move or create disturbances as an outlet for repressed energy. While it sounds like science fiction, the theory remains a popular middle ground between supernatural and purely skeptical explanations. Cultural and societal factors also play a role in how these phenomena are interpreted. In the early 20th century, poltergeist cases were often linked to fears about spiritualism and the occult, while more recent cases are framed around themes of demonic possession or psychic energy. The way we view these stories tends to mirror broader cultural anxieties, from fears of the unknown to concerns about family dynamics or mental health. Despite these various explanations, no single theory has managed to definitively explain poltergeist activity. For believers, the inconsistencies and gaps in skeptical arguments are proof that something beyond our understanding is at play. For skeptics, the lack of concrete evidence reinforces the notion that these cases are rooted in psychology or fraud. The truth, it seems, continues to hover just out of reach, like the very objects thrown by unseen hands. In recent years, poltergeist phenomena have continued to capture the public imagination, evolving alongside advances in technology and shifts in cultural attitudes. Cases of unexplained activity, like those seen in the infamous Enfield or Smurl hauntings, may not dominate the headlines as they once did, but they thrive in a digital age where platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Reddit allow personal encounters to reach millions instantly. Video clips of doors slamming, objects flying across rooms, and eerie voices have sparked renewed debates. Are these the modern-day equivalent of eyewitness testimony, or just clever tricks with editing software? One example that reignited interest is the case of a Scottish family in the 2010s who reported ongoing disturbances in their home, including shadowy figures, disembodied footsteps, and objects moving on their own. Their story made local news when they called in a paranormal investigator who claimed to capture audio evidence of ghostly voices during his visit. While skeptics pointed to the rise of ghost hunting television shows and the potential for financial motives, the family maintained that they sought help purely out of desperation. The cultural impact of poltergeist stories remains undeniable. Films like The Conjuring, Poltergeist, and countless others have drawn heavily from real-life cases, blending fact and fiction to create box office hits. These stories perpetuate the image of poltergeists as violent, unpredictable forces that prey on ordinary families, cementing their place in pop culture. Beyond the entertainment industry, poltergeist tales have also influenced how people interpret strange occurrences in their own lives. For instance, the concept of a spirit attaching itself to a person or home has become a widespread explanation for everything from bad luck to unexplained noises at night. Ongoing investigations into poltergeist activity have taken new forms as well. Paranormal researchers today have access to sophisticated tools, infrared cameras, electromagnetic field detectors, and even AI software designed to analyze audio and visual data for anomalies. While these devices are far from definitive proof, they add a layer of intrigue to modern cases. Researchers often point out that even with better technology, the phenomenon stubbornly resists easy documentation, leading some to believe it exists in a space that science cannot yet measure. Interestingly, public perception of poltergeists has shifted over time. Where past cases were often framed as either supernatural proof or elaborate hoaxes, modern audiences tend to view them with a mix of skepticism and open-minded curiosity. This change may reflect a broader willingness to entertain the unknown, even in an era dominated by science and technology. Shows like Ghost Adventures or BuzzFeed Unsolved have furthered this trend by embracing the mystery without necessarily demanding answers. What keeps these stories alive is their deeply personal nature. Poltergeist cases are rarely just about the strange events themselves. They're about the people who endure them. The fear, frustration, and disbelief of those who claim to experience these phenomena resonate across cultures and generations, tapping into our primal fear of the unseen. Whether you believe in restless spirits, psychic energy, or simple mischief, one thing is clear. Poltergeists have a way of haunting our collective imagination as much as the homes they supposedly invade. Poltergeists are, in many ways, the ultimate enigma, a collision of fear, curiosity, and the inexplicable. We've unraveled their history, traced their presence in folklore, and dissected the infamous cases that have shaped how we perceive these supposed manifestations of the supernatural. We've heard the first-hand accounts, analyzed the evidence, and explored the theories, both paranormal and scientific. Whether they are the work of spirits, bursts of psychic energy, or simply human imagination run wild, poltergeists continue to fascinate because they challenge the boundaries of what we think we know about the world around us. But what makes these stories so enduring? Maybe it's the deeply personal nature of the accounts, the way they seem to target the most vulnerable aspects of our lives, our homes, our families, our sense of safety. Or maybe it's the idea that in a world dominated by reason and logic, there are still mysteries we can't quite explain. Poltergeists represent chaos intruding into order, a reminder that sometimes No matter how much we want answers, they remain just out of reach. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the world of poltergeist phenomena. From the chilling tales of the Enfield poltergeist to the unexplained events of the modern day, these stories leave us with more questions than answers. And perhaps that's the point. The unknown will always be a source of wonder and terror, a place where the imagination thrives. Thanks for listening to Paranormal Files. I'm your host, Zoe Parker. If you liked this episode, don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Share this episode with your fellow paranormal enthusiasts, and be sure to connect with us on social media for behind-the-scenes content and exclusive updates. Join us next time for another exciting journey into the world of the paranormal. If you enjoyed this episode and want to dive even deeper into the world of the paranormal, consider subscribing for exclusive access to content you won't find anywhere else. As a subscriber, you'll get unreleased episodes too shocking or controversial for mainstream platforms, members-only bonus episodes, not available anywhere else, extended director's cut versions of your favorite paranormal investigations, early access to new episodes before they're released to the public, and much more. Thank you for your support. The link is in the description below. Join now.